Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that's pretty relevant to anyone who might be thinking about starting a family.
Okay.
We are going to be unpacking all the factors that can influence conception, and I think you might be surprised by some of the things that we uncover.
Interesting.
If you think you know all about baby-making positions,
Mhm.
think again.
Right.
We're going beyond the basics today,
Okay.
and I can't wait to share these insights with you.
It's funny, actually, how much mystery still surrounds this topic.
Yeah.
So many people are fixated on finding that one magic position,
Right.
but the reality is a lot more interesting than that.
Absolutely, and it's like, everyone's heard that certain positions are better,
Mm-hmm.
but why?
Yeah.
What's the science behind it?
Well, to really grasp that issue, we need to think about the incredible journey that sperm have to take.
Okay.
They start their adventure, and they need to reach the fallopian tubes.
Okay.
Those are the tubes that connect the ovaries to the uterus.
Yeah.
It's where fertilization happens.
Right.
It's a bit of a marathon. And, gravity plays a role in all of this.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Gravity could totally affect things.
Mm-hmm.
So let's break down some of these positions.
Okay.
Is missionary as good as everyone says it is?
Well, the missionary position is often talked about because it allows for deep penetration.
Okay.
That means that the sperm are deposited closer to the cervix, which is the opening to the uterus.
Got it.
It's all about giving those little swimmers a head start.
So it's not just a myth.
Right.
There's actually logic behind it.
Yeah.
Are there any other factors that might boost the effectiveness of this position?
Absolutely.
Huh.
Elevating the woman's hips with a pillow after intercourse can actually help.
Interesting.
It's all about working with gravity and not against it.
Okay.
Think of it as giving the sperm a little extra help on their journey.
Wow, who knew a pillow could make such a difference?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got missionary down.
Mm-hmm.
What about rear entry positions? Do those have any special benefits?
Rear entry positions can also deposit sperm closer to the cervix.
Okay,
So in terms of effectiveness, they are often mentioned alongside the missionary position.
got it.
It's all about finding what works best for you and your partner
Right,
while keeping these anatomical factors in mind.
that's super helpful.
Yeah,
So missionary and rear entry seem to be leading the pack,
it seems so.
but not all positions are created equal, right?
Right.
Are there any positions we should avoid when trying to conceive?
It's not necessarily about avoiding certain positions entirely,
Okay,
but understanding that some might not be as optimal.
okay,
For example, in positions like standing or woman on top gravity might make it a bit harder for the sperm to swim upwards. It's
yeah.
not a deal breaker,
Right.
but it's something to keep in mind.
So it's not just about the position itself, but also about how it works with or against gravity.
Right.
That's fascinating. Okay, so we've talked about missionary and rear entry, and even those that might not be as ideal because of gravity.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other positions people ask about?
Side-by-side positions are often a popular choice.
Okay.
They're comfortable,
Yeah.
especially for individuals with physical limitations, and they can still be effective for conception. It really comes down to personal preference and what feels best.
That's great.
Yeah,
It's good to have options.
absolutely.
Now, what about what happens after intercourse?
Uh-huh.
Does that play a role in conception too?
It's surprising how many people overlook this part.
Really?
It's not just about the act itself.
Okay.
What you do afterwards can also make a difference.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
Yeah.
What are some post-intercourse tips that might help?
Well, simply remaining lying down for a bit after intercourse, maybe with those hips slightly elevated, can give the sperm more time to reach their destination.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay still for hours.
Yeah.
But a few minutes of relaxation can definitely help.
That's a simple tip, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Now, what about orgasm?
Yeah.
Does that affect things?
Well, female orgasm isn't strictly necessary for conception.
Okay.
It can potentially aid in sperm transport.
Interesting.
It's all thanks to the contractions that occur during orgasm.
Wow. So it's like our bodies are working together to help those sperm along.
Exactly.
So we've covered positions and post-intercourse tips.
Mm-hmm.
What a lot of people don't realize is that timing is just as crucial, right?
Absolutely.
Like that's a huge piece of this puzzle.
Understanding ovulation,
Okay.
that's when an egg is released from the ovary, is absolutely key to maximizing your chances of getting pregnant.
Okay. Let's dive into that.
Okay.
How can someone actually predict when they're ovulating?
There are a few methods.
Okay.
One of the most common is tracking basal body temperature.
Okay.
Your basal body temperature is your temperature when you're fully at rest,
Right.
and it actually rises slightly after ovulation.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if you track your temperature every morning, you can spot a pattern and figure out when you're ovulating.
Exactly.
Right.
It takes a little bit of dedication,
Yeah.
but it can be a really helpful tool.
Got it.
And, it's not just about numbers.
Okay.
Your body gives you other clues as well.
Wait, really? Like what? Tell me more.
Well, pay attention to your cervical mucus.
Okay.
It becomes thinner and clearer during ovulation,
Okay.
which makes it easier for sperm to travel.
Got it.
It's your body's way of creating a more welcoming environment.
That's incredible.
Right.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Are there any other signs we should be looking out for?
Some women experience something called Mittelschmerz,
Mm-hmm.
which is a fancy word for mild lower abdominal pain that happens around ovulation.
Interesting.
It's not everyone,
Right.
but it can be another helpful indicator.
So we've got basal body temperature,
Mm-hmm.
cervical mucus,
Yeah.
and even this Mittelschmerz thing.
Right.
Are there any other methods, maybe something a bit more high-tech?
Of course.
Yep.
Ovulation predictor kits are a great option.
Okay.
They're easy to use and can detect hormonal changes associated with ovulation.
So we've got a whole toolbox of options for predicting ovulation.
Yeah.
But before we move on, I think it's important to highlight one crucial point that often gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Like with all this talk about positions and timing,
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to forget the most fundamental factor,
Yeah.
and that is
Regular sexual intercourse.
it's so easy to get caught up in the details that we forget the basics.
Exactly.
You're listening to The Deep Dive.
I am. It's so important.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in the details that we forget the basics.
Exactly. When you're trying to conceive, aiming for intercourse at least 3 times a week is a good guideline.
Okay,
It increases the chances of hitting that fertile window we were just talking about.
that makes total sense. So if you're tracking ovulation, you can time things even better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For women with a typical 28-day cycle, the most fertile period is roughly between days 11 and 18.
Got it.
That's when you want to be extra diligent about those 3 times a week.
Okay, so knowing how to track ovulation can really make a big difference.
Okay, let me do a quick recap for our listeners.
Okay.
We've learned that while there's no guaranteed magic position,
Right.
certain positions like missionary or rear entry might give sperm a bit of an edge.
Right, and we can't forget those little things like elevating the hips after intercourse.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest things can have a big impact.
And of course, we can't underestimate the importance of timing.
Right.
Tracking basal body temperature, checking cervical mucus, and even using those ovulation predictor kits can help us pinpoint those fertile days.
It's all about taking charge of your fertility and understanding how your body works.
Right.
Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely. This has been so enlightening.
Right.
We've busted some myths, explored the science behind conception, and learned some practical tips that anyone can use. And most importantly, we've emphasized that regular intimacy is key throughout the cycle.
Yeah.
It's not just about those few fertile days. It's about connecting with your partner and enjoying the journey together.
I love that perspective. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you want to share with our listeners who are on their own path to parenthood?
It's important to remember that every journey is unique.
Yeah.
If you're facing challenges, don't hesitate to reach out to a healthcare professional. They can provide personalized guidance and support tailored to your specific situation.
That's such valuable advice. And it leads us to a question for you, our listener. How can understanding these factors empower you to take a more proactive and informed approach to family planning?
That's a great question. It's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
We encourage you to continue exploring resources, consult with healthcare professionals, and most importantly, have open and honest conversations with your partner about your hopes and dreams for the future.
This deep dive has given us so much to think about. We hope you feel empowered and equipped with knowledge on your journey to parenthood.
And remember, the journey itself is part of the story.
Yeah.
Embrace it, cherish the moments, and never stop learning and growing together.
Beautifully said. Thanks for joining us on this incredible deep dive. We hope you've learned something new and feel inspired to take a more proactive approach to family planning. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep into the things that matter most. And that's a wrap on our deep dive into conception. We covered so much ground today,
We did.
from those baby-making positions to the power of understanding your ovulation cycle. It's amazing how much we can learn about our bodies and how they work, isn't
It
it?
really is.
I hope our listeners feel just as empowered as I do after this conversation. Remember, knowledge is power when it comes to family planning.
Absolutely. And remember, every journey is unique. So be kind to yourself
Mm-hmm.
and don't hesitate to seek support when you need it.
Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And to our amazing listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new, felt a few aha moments, and maybe even had a chuckle or two along the way. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep those questions coming. We'll be back with another deep dive soon. Then you.